What's up, my brothers and sisters? Thank you all for watching my channel. If you have not liked and subscribed, then please do so if you appreciate and support my content. It's time for another story time with JS. Now, one of the questions that I've received recently is, JS, what is the craziest experience that you've had with the rite of deification? Your signature ritual, the one that puts you on the map in the occult field, like literally overnight. It's actually a tie. It's a tie between two separate cases. So I'll get straight into it here. The first one was a young man. He was 27 years old. I won't name him because I don't think that he wants his name put out publicly, but we'll call him Scathe the Dragon. If you're watching Scathe, you know who you are. I would love to have you on for a podcast to discuss this. If you see this and you're willing to do that, then hit me up. But this man booked me for Rite of Deification, and this was approximately 7 years ago. Now, this guy was in a wheelchair, all right? And he was in a wheelchair because he suffered from chronic pain. Chronic pain from the waist down, shooting down his legs, his lower back, to the point where he could not walk, all right? So most days he got around in a wheelchair. On good days, he was able to get around with a walker, all right? And so this guy tells me that he is in so much pain all day, every day, that when he wakes up to take a piss in the middle of the night, he hobbles to the bathroom, and he said that he's in so much pain that sometimes he throws up before he takes a piss once he gets to the toilet because he is in that much pain. So my first question is like, okay, what's the cause of your pain? What's your injury? What happened to you? And that's the strange thing. He had not ever been injured. There was nothing physically wrong with him. He'd never been in a car accident. He never had any type of injury. This just seemed to be something that he was born with that the doctors could not figure out why he was in so much fucking pain all the time. And I was like, well, what drove you to book me for this ritual? He said that a little voice whispered it to him, whispered my name to him, and told him to book this ritual for himself. And I'm like, okay. So when I talk to this guy, I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I can help you. I can never guarantee anyone that I can or that magic will be successful, because no magician is successful 100% of the time, whether they say they are or not. Yeah, there's just no guarantees when it comes to this type of stuff, but I'm happy to try to help you. So we schedule a night to perform his ritual. We set up, I let him know, like, hey, be laying down, be relaxed, performing your ritual tonight. It's going to take several hours. So get comfortable and get as much sleep as you can over the next 3 days. And so I go out and I set up and I start the opening rituals, the opening rites for the deification rite. And it starts thundering. The wind starts blowing and you start hearing thunder. There's no rain. There's no lightning that you can see flashing, just thunder rolling over and over and over again. And the wind continued to pick up, and to the point where trees were actually falling. I heard a tree fall on my neighbor's house during this ritual. It was that windy, and there was a lot of thunder. And so I kneeled down over this guy's picture, which is something I do for the deification rite. I always print out the recipient's picture. I put their name and birthday on the back. I write our statements of intention. In this case, it was overall enhancement and to attempt to help him and heal him in any way that we possibly could. And so when I stand up after connecting to him through his photograph, when I stand up and stood back, I see this giant spider like coming at my face. And back then I had a fear of spiders. So I was like, bah! You know, I like like ninja chop the spider web. There was a spider web connected to my forehead somehow and connected to his picture. So I like slap away the spider web and the spider slingshots back to his photograph and it sits right on his face. The spider just crawls up right on his face and sits there on his picture and just looks at me. And at this point, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And there's like another clash of thunder. Like, okay, this is intense. So I then proceed with the deification rite, which involves evoking him out of body and offering him a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood directly to him in order to strengthen him, heal him, empower him, and enhance him on every possible level. And even when I took his photograph and placed it into the bowl that I spill the blood into the bowl on top of the photograph during this ritual, the blood from the rooster, the sacrifice, this spider remained right there on his face. And so I spill the blood on top of the spider, on top of his picture, spill the blood into the fire, and then I place the photograph and spill the blood from the bowl into the fire, spider along with it. It was like the spider was offering itself as a sacrifice in this ritual to go with the sacrifice of the rooster unto this man. So I place the body of the rooster onto the pyre, allow it to burn down, and then I dismiss this man's spirit back to his body to carry with him that newfound strength and youth to serve him as best as it possibly could. There was one more clash of thunder when I dismissed him, and that was it. The wind stopped, the thunder stopped. Everything was calm and quiet. And I was sitting there going, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? That was insane. And I felt like electricity going through my body. Like I was tingly. Like there was so much energy involved in this working. It was unlike anything I'd experienced up to that point. So I get an email from this guy the next morning. He's like, bro, I woke up and went for a walk this morning. I'm pain-free. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, man, I got to tell you, like, the experience that I had. I'm like, okay, let's jump back on. Let's do a follow-up consultation. I got to hear this. I got to hear your version of the version of your experience, and I got to tell you mine because this was crazy. And so we get back on Skype 3 days later. He's like, dude, he's like, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened. Like, not only am I better, but I am healed. He said, I got up and went for a walk the next day. He said the day after that, I went for a bicycle ride the first time since I was a little kid. He's like, I'm pain-free. You gave me my life back. He's like, what the fuck did you do? I'm like, all I did was the ritual you hired me to do. I did the deification rite for you. I was like, what did you experience? And he said, well, I started out, I laid down whenever you told me to lay down to perform this ritual. He said, next thing I knew, I was unconscious. And then the next thing, I was hovering above your fire pit, your ritual space. He's like, I could see the deification circle. I could see you, and I was above the fire. And then I came down into the fire, and he said he was standing in the flames. And then he said that another being, a large being that he described as Lucifer, he thought it was Lucifer. He said it was Lucifer. That's who he understood it to be. He said another being walked into the ritual space as he was standing across from me while I was performing the ritual, walked around behind him and pulled 2 long daggers out of his lower back and threw them on the ground in front of him and said, there, you're free now. He then said, and described to me exactly what I was wearing and what I did, and said that I spilled the blood of the sacrifice into the fire unto him and then dismissed him back to his body. And then he woke up the next day completely pain-free, like he was normal. Now, the doctors, this man had no injuries, okay? He'd never been in an accident, like I said before, there was no explanation for why he suffered from this type of pain, this debilitating pain that prevented him from walking. There was no explanation for it scientifically or medically. So it was obviously a spiritual affliction. And after the ritual we did, he's been normal ever since. Like, we've talked multiple times since then, and he's like, man, I'm normal now. You gave me my life back. I'm just like, no, I did not give you your life back. I just facilitated the working that gave you your life back. Some little voice whispered to you and told you to book me for this ritual, and then some being that he perceived as Lucifer assisted in this working. And what I really think, after years of contemplating this, what do I think happened, or what do I think the problem was? If I research ancient cultures a lot, and ancient rituals from ancient cultures, and if it brings me back to the Native Americans. There was a certain several tribes, not a certain tribe, several tribes of Native Americans that thought or believed that if you desecrated a body after the body of your enemy after you killed them, then they would be crippled in the next life. All right. And so this specific tribe, I'm not going to name them or anything like that, but after they killed their enemies in battle, they would take a knife and slit them up under both armpits. All right. And they believed that by desecrating, by cutting their dead enemies up under their armpits, that they would be crippled in the next life to the point where they could not even straddle a horse or shoot a bow. And they believed in reincarnation. They believed that by doing this, that they would be born crippled so that they would not have to face that enemy in a future, in the next life. So I really think that possibly, if this concept is true, if reincarnation is real, which I believe that it is, that maybe this man was cursed in some type of way in death from one of his past lives, probably his most recent past life, where possibly he had 2 daggers shoved into his lower back and pelvis in order to cripple him in this life. And by performing this ritual, and with the help of Lucifer, we were able to remove those shadow daggers, whatever you want to call them, the energetic remains of that sympathetic curse that was placed on his body in his past life. We were able to pull those daggers out and remove that in order to restore him to full physical health and full physical function in this physical life. There's really no definitive answers. These are just my theories, and honestly, I'm just sitting here going, what the fuck even happened? All right, what the fuck even happened? All right, this is not a miracle that I performed. This is a miracle that was performed by, I believe what the client said, by Lucifer, and I think that Lucifer directed him to hire me to facilitate this working. And this is just one of the few insane miracles, the most insane miracle that I've been able to be a part of in facilitating and performing with the Rite of Deification. So I just wanted to tell you guys about that. That's story time with JS. I've got a lot more stories coming for you guys. If you have not subscribed to my Patreon, then please do so. If you have not liked and subscribed to this channel, then please do so. And I will continue to bring you guys the very best content that I can create and put on display for you. Hail the Infernal Empire.